Cool. Well, I guess we'll just get started here. People can join if they want. So those who are new to the Joes, our whole thing is about creating the space for your average Joe to be a not-so-average Joe and attain financial freedom. And a really big part of that is becoming the type of person who can become financially free. We're in a lot of spaces, especially in the crypto space, where there's a lot of alpha groups, right? And they're just saying, buy this, buy that. Here's the crypto to buy. Here are the buy signals. Let's pump and dump stuff and make a bunch of money. And while there's nothing absolutely wrong with that, what we're doing here at Joe's is we're giving people a space to actually learn how to hold the energetic of what it's like to be financially responsible for a lot of money and holding an abundance mindset, how to deal with their emotions while their trades are going up and down, how to look for particular projects and pick out the ones that are going to be good, and really just like how to feel out the energy of the crypto space and make sound investments. And so we have the Not So Average Mindset channel, where you can go in and see all the articles that us as the Joes have written, and that gives like a lot of the downloads that we've learned like over the years about how we trade in NFTs and how we look at the crypto space. So if you haven't seen those at all, that's a really good opportunity to go and check out and read our articles, because we've spent some time on that to really educate you guys. And in addition to that, I think one of the main things that we are doing this project as is basically as a giant experiment based on our constitution. If you guys haven't read this, check out our mind map in the mind map channel, and check out our constitution as well. It's just joeshmonft.com/constitution. You can also see that in our mind map channel as well. And this constitution is a culmination of 5 years of testing out a DAO-like structure in terms of business. And well, maybe I'll add a little bit of context to that. In the crypto space, when we think of a DAO, we think of a decentralized autonomous organization. And when they first came out, in 2016 or 2017, when people really started talking about DAOs, one of the main things was, how do we actually make this thing decentralized? Because people were basically like, okay, if we create a DAO and we can get other people invested and we can get the community to vote, that's all good and dandy. However, the way that it's been set up and the way that people have kind of been thinking about it structurally is it's more like a business with kind of shares, and you've got shareholders that can vote on particular things. But there wasn't any mechanisms, and still aren't for the vast majority of projects, at least that we've seen. There aren't really ways for people to take over the project in a decentralized way. And that is part of what the Constitution, why we're creating it, is that ultimately we want to take the Joe Shmo project and give you guys opportunities to take your NFTs, stake them into particular roles, and then basically become an executive, a part of the Joe's team, and ultimately take it over from us. And so in this constitution, we've outlined how do people get paid, how do the roles actually get selected, how do roles transition if someone's not participating or people want to vote someone else new in. Those are kind of the main decisions that any DAO needs to really have in order to operate in a decentralized way. And so we've spent the time over those 5 years to create that constitution. And this is our first time that we're bringing this into the crypto space. And so we're really, really excited about dropping that after mint, or at least starting to implement the constitution and bringing in the roles and adding the staking ability for people to start to use the technology. And we're really, 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 really excited about that. That's an overall like 10,000 foot view of what we're all about here. And
I can even
go for it.
Jump in a little bit on that. Is like, I'm not particularly someone who participated in the creation of the Constitution, but after I read it and from my deep understanding of how like the cryptoverse works, like this isn't just something that is like an experiment because we want to do it, but it's also an experiment because I think there's a really big need for something like this.
Yeah.
Like, especially in the NFT realm where founders could essentially launch and complete their roadmap, and the community could say that they rugged. And with so many actual rugs actually happening and like the community having to take them over. Like Cool Beans on Solana was like a great example, right? Like the community did like a full blown takeover of Cool Beans. They're trying to do it for Meerkats. Like this is what happens when in reality the community's expectations aren't met by a founder. And so like what I'm most curious about in like this experiment is not just like is really how do we solve this issue? How can we actually like transform the way that DAOs work in a way where community members are actually incentivized to participate monetarily and beyond that, right? Because I was thinking about it earlier today, like if you think about a role of a corporation begins as a small startup, and as a small startup grows, the person that created it, the founders, don't always take the CEO roles. In fact, like as it grows out of its like proportion and is out of its box, what usually happens is they go out and they hire a CEO. And so what DAOs are essentially attempting to do right now is create the same model but decentralize it where other people can take roles and participate in the community. And I'm kind of excited to see how that can form and how it can be modeled in a way that other communities can actually like replicate it and have thriving projects and products that essentially could pay the community members out to participate the most. And that would just create an entirely like different level of thriving to the NFT ecosystem as a whole, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I love that you said that. And a big part of our constitution too, like in order like to add to that, is the ability to move quickly. We built certain mechanisms into the constitution, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing today. It's a 45-page document, and it's something that we'll actually drill down into a smaller document after mint in order to explain some of the mechanisms in a little bit simpler of terms. But the whole point is like we need to be able, as a DAO and as an organization, to move quickly. And I mean, everyone knows the crypto space, like one day is like 1 year or like 1 month or 6 months or something in the quote unquote real world. And so things need to happen and they need to shift very, very quickly. Ideas need to be pivoted upon quickly. Implementation and action needs to happen quickly. And so we've created this in order to allow the DAO to try out new things very, very quickly, test them in the market, see if they work, and then pivot very quickly. And that includes people as well. If people just want to come in and contribute for a little bit and get paid for that, there's going to be mechanisms for that. If there's people that want to be ongoing and be a huge part of the project, they're welcome to participate more and get paid for that as well. And so we're going to have all these different mechanisms for people to participate in the ways that they want to. And in addition, we'll probably have something to allow people that don't really want to be. We'll have ways for people to contribute that necessarily aren't staking one of these special NFTs that we create for the role specifically, but they'll still be able to participate in the ways that they want, because some people have 9-to-5 jobs here. They want to transition their lives to more crypto focused, but they may not be able to put in like tons of hours into the Joe Shmoes project, or they may not even want to. And so we're going to have opportunities for them as well. And so we just want to give everyone the opportunities, test this constitution out, refine it, listen to you guys, and then also be able to, offer this constitution. It's completely open source. You guys can go see it right now and share it with your projects. We've actually got a conversation on Twitter Spaces on Thursday with D-Gods and Solana Money Boys and Famous Fox Federation. Who else we got? Some other people that are doing DAOs as well. And so we're really excited about sharing these concepts with these guys and really seeing where this whole ecosystem of DAOs can lead towards, can move towards. And so that's why we're really excited to be here. We're really excited about the mint on Friday. We've been working hard to get everything together for the last couple months for you guys, and we're just all really excited to be here. Super excited for the mint, and That's kind of the gist.
Yeah, super happy to field any questions if anybody's got any thoughts or questions or anything like that.
What's up, Rex?
What's up, Rex? How you doing, man? But yeah, besides that, that's kind of the core of the experiment and the experience we're like curious about co-creating with y'all.
Yeah. And if anyone wants to come up here and jam out, ask questions, just raise your hand. Or if you're a little bit nervous and don't like talking, we've got the Joe's No Text channel right above this. So you can go in there and type your channel or type your question rather. Anyone want to come up? Anyone want to ask some questions? Anything you're curious about? Oh, we got one. We got probers. All right. How do we get this guy up here? There you go.
What's up, guys?
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, so I learned about you, I think, from the Kryptoneers Discord.
Oh,
I've not had a chance to kind of dive into everything. Can you guys give me like a brief elevator pitch of what you guys are trying to accomplish?
You must have just like come in right after we spoke to all of that. But just like a little bit of a brief overview, and we're going to go over this all in the Kryptoneers AMA tomorrow. But essentially, one of the things that we're trying to accomplish with this Joe Shmoes project is all about actually having a DAO that's decentralized in nature. So if you haven't like looked into it, we've got a 45-page constitution, which is a culmination of us working on this document over 5 years about creating a decentralized autonomous organization in a traditional business context. And so with Joe, is we've ported that to the crypto space, and that answers a lot of the questions that DAOs are having challenges with now. They're like, how do we pay people? How do we scale the thing? How do we vote? How do we bring people into roles? How do we eliminate people out of roles or kick them out rather? For instance, if there's a bad actor or someone needs to move on, how do all those processes happen? And so we've outlined our approach in doing that, which we've tested, which has like worked for us in business for just about 5 years now. And it's changed a little bit since then. So it's an updated document. But that is essentially what's going to happen. So when we mint, every holder is going to have the ability to interact with the DAO, and then they'll have their chance of getting a special NFT that will allow them to basically hold a role within the DAO, as if kind of like what our team is like now, right? So there'll be roles for community managers, there'll be roles for designers, there'll be roles for people who do marketing, that kind of thing. And they'll be able to stake it to a contract or something along those lines that will allow them to get paid based on the treasury, based on how the people in the DAO who are holding those roles will vote for how the treasury is going to be used. And so we will pass off ultimately, as we work through this process, we will pass off this entire project to the community to let them run it in entirety. And so our goal is to set up the infrastructure and the know-how and the knowledge of how to teach people how to run the DAO so that they can make those decisions for themselves and then take this, wherever it wants to go. We're kind of like the seeds of the vision, and we also understand that we won't be able to do this forever. And there's a lot of people who want to take over projects and contribute in new ways and unique ways and haven't had the opportunities to do that. And so, we've set up the art, we've set up the infrastructure, and we'll continue to do so. And then let that keep going, essentially.
And to add to that, like the most importantly, like we're gonna like create a model for it, right? So what's happening in the community right now, and Rex, I see you got a SMV, like it's a great example, is like, how do you create a DAO without a traditional hierarchy structure where one person controls it or one entity controls it and makes all the final decisions, which is essentially like kind of to a very base degree what's happening with Solana Monkey business and the Monkey DAO itself. Is like they're both kind of at different vision points and control is still essentially centralized around the team and not the DAO that's created and existing. And that's what's like the attempt of what's happening right now, is to get them to actually transition over. And so that's kind of what the Constitution outlines. And also, like, Ace, I'm reading your question right now, so let me get to that in a sec. But like, also, like, that's kind of what the Constitution outlines, and to a degree, like, that's the model that we're experimenting with and wanting to help create in reality, so that it can like actually be utilized by the existing DAOs to expand them, and by community members who are inspired enough to like want to take over rugged projects. Because there's a lot of great projects with great art and a great community that literally all they need is like a couple leaders to stand up and say, we're ready to like take this model into direct action and bring the community back to life. And it would uplift the energy of a whole different like sector of people in the NFT world. So those are my kind of thoughts. Ace, we're going to get to your questions right now.
Let's take a look at these.
Yeah, just to kind of follow up on some of that too. Are there any projects that you guys are kind of looking at right now? And then how do you think the DAO process is going to work in the voting portion? Is that something where it's going to be filtered down through individuals or whomever the moderators are? Or in how the voting is kind of going to work through snapshots, or just kind of what you think in that area?
Yeah. So ultimately, it's gonna have to go through us to start, because we have all the assets, right? Like we're in control of, the treasury. After Magic Eden mints, like we have all the art, we have all the SOPs, we have basically all the knowledge of how we got here. And so one of the things that we're going to do after the launch is kind of like type all that up, get that all in place, and then because we don't want to take. And this might answer some of your questions too as well, Ace. Because we don't want to take like years in order to pass this off, crypto space moves fast. There's going to be two options that happen. Either we find a developer that will help us build the internal tools that we would need in order to handle some of that distribution and some of the voting mechanisms and some of the staking that would need to happen. Or, and usually, hopefully this is both, more likely, it's likely that we'll have some kind of jankety solution until that happens. That will just be more ad hoc and run by us with a little bit more manual effort than we'd probably like here in Discord. Ultimately, we need to get some decentralized technological solutions in there. And I think, Ace, to answer your question, part of it is actually part of the reason why DAOs are not completely decentralized is because of that technological problem. What we're addressing here more often is the structural issue of how some of this stuff works and how it scales, and who's actually making the decisions and mechanisms for how that works. So Probers, it's like, right, it's going to be us passing it down while creating the infrastructure to allow it to be passed off cleanly. Does that make sense? Or does that answer your question?
Yeah, that does. Are there any projects you guys are looking at right now that you would think would go on the first kind of ballot?
What do you mean?
So say the treasury gets going and such, and now there's going to be a vote of projects. Do you guys, have you forethought kind of right now, like in the next 3 months, like, I'm looking at these 3 projects and I think these are the ones that we want to go after? Or is it kind of
to put into a treasury?
Yeah.
So got it. Yeah. So this is kind of like what DAOs are kind of doing now. They're just kind of investment vehicles, which isn't necessarily bad. I don't think that's going to be our main intention. We might have some stuff like that, but mainly we want the treasury to fund, different projects that Joes are doing. So that's mainly our focus. Joe number 4 might have some thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, Probers, I think like you're exactly touching on the like exact issue that we're trying to address, right? Like right now, in especially like in the Solana ecosystem, when you say DAO, it essentially just means treasury. And while I do think that like it's a like creative way to incentivize like NFT holders to like participate in the ecosystem, it still leaves it centralized. like to the founders. And so essentially what we're saying is like the treasury can be utilized in more ways than just buying blue chips on the market and adding it to the treasury, right? Like it could actually be incentivized if the group of Joes that are choosing to participate in the ecosystem decide, you know what, we want to make Jane's, Jane Shmoes, and we want to make a whole new collection. And so we're going to use X amount of dollars from the secondary royalties and from our, like, AKA the treasury, in order to hire an artist, in order to create the blockchain contract in the candy machine, in order to get all of those things organized. And now it's not going to happen like 100%. We understand that this isn't a process that can happen quickly or like immediately, I should say. And so that's kind of like the experiment, and the question that we have is like, how do we inspire, and how do we inspire the community to be incentivized enough to like join and participate in the project? And like once they're participating, once they've joined, like the highest level participators, the people that are like the most inspired by it, like we want to actually give them like roles and opportunities, like to increase, to actually participate as a team member of the Joes, and maybe like part of the royalties and part of the DAO actually pay that person. So now all of a sudden, like we're talking about changing an entire ecosystem from a DAO structure that kind of just self-feeds itself and allows like the ecosystem and the token to go up, or the NFT to go up, to a DAO that could actually distribute itself in a way where its community members could almost have full paying jobs working and participating in the ecosystem of the actual NFT project, or of whatever the DAO is trying to do. So that's kind of more of the model that we're taking, and I hope that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, that does. Are you guys going to stay on Solana, or are you going to be a little chain agnostic? What's kind of your plan there?
So good question. So the four of us Joes, there's only two of us here right now. This project's going to be on Solana. Clearly, once we give this over to the DAO, we won't really have any say other than like an average user of like what chains people want to go to. We run like an incubator, if you will, like a crypto NFT incubator. And so we're going to be launching some more projects on some potentially other chains. We love Solana. We think it's great because it has like a very cool community, very tight knit. Gas fees are super low, and we've also been like looking at potentially doing other projects for some of our clients on ETH. We've considered Cardano as well, less so a lot recently. But yeah, it's kind of up in the air. If the DAO takes over and they're like, all right, let's go to ETH, or some new blockchain comes out. I know people have been talking about Near recently and stuff. Like, that's all up to the DAO. It could also go like, there's also possibilities where it could be like completely cross-chain. I mean, we've had concepts where there's a way to create a project that could be really cool, where it's cross-chain, where if you're holding some of the NFTs across one collection, but it's across many chains, and you collect them across the different chains, then it, gives you some kind of rewards or benefits, or, who knows what happens. So there's really infinite possibilities here. And what's up, Tony Two Smokes? What's up, man? Shout out to that guy.
All right, let's see if we answered all of Ace's questions.
But yeah, let's see.
Bro, does that make sense, man?
Yeah, no, it makes sense to me. I just kind of want to get a feel for where the overall project was and kind of where it's going.
100%.
I think that's mostly, I guess, like, I'm not super familiar with the Solana chain. I think I'm super familiar with like Algorand, Avalanche, and such. I don't see NFTs doing NFTs don't do super well on Avalanche, but they do on Algorand. And I think NFTs do really well on Solana too. But what other kind of projects are being built on Solana that you think you could potentially get involved with that are outside of NFTs?
100%. So like one of our like kind of intentions with also bringing the Constitution and integrating it with the Joes and sharing it with the community is to actually like help and like work with projects that are building DAOs. Part of our our AMA/Twitter Spaces on Thursday is with DGods. It's with these other projects that have DAOs, and are, quite frankly, are already asking the questions that most of the document kind of like details. So that's kind of like the way that I see like potential partnerships forming beyond just like the traditional like giveaways or whatever it is. It's like we actually like would like to help, and you like help like DAOs that are in existence that want to continue to expand and like move into a more decentralized format, utilize like the content in the constitution, and hopefully work with them to actually build it.
So, man, that's all I had. It was cool riffing.
Thanks for coming,
awesome, man.
Appreciate
it. And if you're coming to the Cryptonaires AMA tomorrow, we'll probably be answering that and more. So, yeah, great to meet you, man. Thanks for your questions. What else we got? Let's check out Ace's questions. I just want to say what's up to Smedify, if I said that right. We got Matthew Waver and Wabamf.
Wabamf. What's up, Wabamf? So the time frame question was kind of already answered a little bit, Ace. Like the goal, like definitely not years or decades, preferably, but I think like the real answer is like I think the goal would be to get it within a like preferably like 5 to 7 month period. But I don't want to set like constraints or anything, because like this is an experiment. Like it might take a shorter period of time for us to actually like produce what we're trying to produce. It might take a little bit longer. We don't really know. We're kind of in that experimentation phase. So I guess the best answer is like until it becomes functional.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing with a lot of NFT projects, and something that we're very, very clear here at Joe's, like on our stance, is that all these NFT projects are creating crazy expectations. Like their roadmaps are like, we're doing this, we're doing at this date, we're doing this at this date. And then what happens is they don't fulfill their roadmap because they have to deal with all sorts of stuff that happens in any type of project, any type of organization, where you're dealing with problems with people, you're dealing with developer issues, you're dealing with policy change, you're dealing with wars that are going on, all sorts of shit. And so we're not making like any type of timeline based expectations, because we know that changes really, really quickly. We could come out of this mint and, there's a possibility that we just spin it up in 2 months and it just flies forward, and it might take a little bit longer. But we're really, really intentional around creating those expectations, because we're also under the awareness that when you create your expectations that are a little bit beyond of that, that you absolutely can deliver, especially when it comes to time, it really impacts your ability to be creative and impacts your ability to pivot when it's necessary, because the market is changing so quickly. And that's been so important for our creativity. Even Joe Shmoes was born out of a random idea that we had like one day while we were all just like hanging out with each other, and then we just created the art, and now we're started. But if we were really focused on our other projects and creating expectations around those, it wouldn't even give us space to be creative. And so we're basically taking our lifestyle here that we live in together and bringing that to you guys, because the amount of possibilities that we've had in our life has just been absolutely amazing, and we're sharing a lot of that in the Not So Average Mindset channel as well. And I want to address why you said the reason current DAOs are not real DAOs, and I've kind of spoken on to this, and I don't want to say that they're not real in that sense. Like this, I don't want to knock the people that are creating these DAOs, because a lot of what people are creating is like really beautiful endeavor. And what we're just like wanting to say is like, we've been on it for a very, very, relatively long time, 6-7 years. We've been thinking about this stuff. One of our founders have been thinking about this stuff even before DAOs were even a thing. And so we went on this experiment to actually create this constitution. It took years of hashing through these questions and getting into consensus on how the particular algorithms work, how the particular payments work, how the voting mechanisms work, and all of that. And it's not an easy feat. And so I don't think that people are like the DAOs aren't real. I just think that they haven't thought through a lot of the questions. I think they're at the beginning phase of thinking through a lot of the things that they need to figure out in order to run a successful DAO. Except they're just kind of like in that process. And so it is challenging. I just read a Twitter post from and the guy from Zero X Thug from Thugbirds, who's just talking about the struggles that he had with the community because he got overwhelmed with running all of it himself, and then he had to kind of figure out ThugDAO and and then he thought the whole thing was going to collapse, and then ultimately the community started supporting it and picking it back up, and that's just it's not easy to run a DAO, and we think a lot of the things that are just structurally embedded into current DAOs, not out of like any ill intent or like to not be a DAO or whatever. It's just kind of a natural like evolution and progress of the ideas, and we've just spent some time doing that and found solutions to a lot of the common problems that people are facing in them currently. If that answers your question, Ace. What's up, Sure Daddy? And I love people's names on Discord.
Real.
It's like, how do you come up with that? Sure Daddy, I love it. Deacon Doctor, what's up, man?
You guys got any other questions?
Here, Ace got a couple more.
Deacon wants to join.
Deacon wants to join? Okay. Let's bring him up here. Deacon, come on up.
Yo, what's up, Joe's?
Yo, what's up, man? How you doing?
So, Joe's is going to be my first Solana NFT purchase.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Are you on the whitelist?
Yep. Totally.
Awesome. Great.
I just got my Phantom wallet set up. I purchased my first Solana, and I'm just going to send it over and wait a couple days.
Fuck yeah.
Oh, nice. Fuck yeah, bro. Fuck yeah, bro. Deacon. I know who this is.
Yeah, hey guys, how's it going? How's the project? I like the little talk that you just did about DAOs. I mean, that was really interesting stuff.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's going well. We're just getting ready for Mint on Friday, and yeah, we're just hanging, man. You got to come to the office soon.
Yeah, good. Come kick it.
Yeah, dude, now that I have survived COVID, I basically plowed through COVID because I had to deliver a product launch. We just ended the product launch last night, and we did $2 million $2.4 million in 2 weeks. Pretty solid launch.
Oh, nice. Congrats, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was fun. Now I've got a little bit of free time, and I'm feeling better, and I'm just excited to get more involved with the community here and see if I can help my Joes.
Oh, fuck yeah, bro. We love it. Yeah, we're super excited. We've been working on this for a decent amount of time now, and we'll kind of see what happens. We're really excited, and there's a lot of factors that aren't up to us as either. So we're just kind of hanging, enjoying the time. But I think a lot of people would be stressing right about now.
Yeah. Well, it's like you guys don't need this to succeed. It's just fun, and since that's the attitude you're approaching it, it most likely will succeed.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the thing of like why we're speaking to that as a community, because especially in the NFT space, when people are trading or crypto or whatever, and you probably know this, like the more attached you get to something is the more that it like fucks with your own energy and like fucks the possibility of the thing happening. And so a big practice for us as Joes is like, how do we become like NFT Buddhists in a sense? Like, how do we become like unattached to the outcome as possible, but also like not being detached from it? Because if you're detached, then you're not really paying attention. But if you're paying attention and you've got, let's say you're just like an average Joe, right? And you've got $1,000 or something, or $500 in a crypto or whatever, and you watch it sink 80%. It's kind of like a gut wrenching thing to feel in your body of like how to feel impacting your finances. And so each of us has the experience of losing thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I mean, like when we watched Bitcoin run up to 20,000 for the first time and then just come crashing down. I mean, imagine all those people that bought in at the peak at that point, like how devastating that experience was. And like I was hodling. I didn't feel fine. I felt bad, but I also knew that this was just the beginning, and I just held on, And I guess the key is like, don't ever emotionally sell at a loss when you've bought something because you believe in it. It's like you keep believing in it.
Totally. Nice. If you like, that's a great example. And that's a great way to like lead from like the investments of like things that you believe in and not necessarily the financial value. Because a lot of the things, especially in this space, the financial value pumps. It's not like worth anything at all, but except for the hype. And so then once the hype's gone, then the whole thing just like runs out and just like collapses. Right. But something with like structural change, or basically like societal value, over time is going to win. Like Bitcoin's just been fucking killing it, and people have been saying that Bitcoin's not a real thing for years, and it's like, well, countries are using it now.
No, every geopolitical event Bitcoin is somehow involved in now. Yeah, I think that's incredible to watch.
Yeah, there's Congress people making NFT projects now.
Well, the Russians are going to use Bitcoin to avoid sanctions. The Ukrainians are using Bitcoin to accept millions of dollars in donations and to buy flak jackets. I mean, it's like it's on both sides of every issue now. It's just becoming so ubiquitous. And it's so funny in the crypto space. People look at Bitcoin as like, well, it's just old school, old news. But at the same time, if you like just look at Google Trends for the last 12 months, Bitcoin sits higher than NFTs, crypto in general, Ethereum, Solana, everything. Bitcoin is still the number one most talked about piece of our entire ecosystem. And so I feel like we all owe Bitcoin a lot of gratitude because it just keeps chugging along, going strong, never failing. And that's why we're able to build all this other stuff on that solid foundation.
100%. Thanks, Satoshi.
Satoshi be praised.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks, guys. I'm going to head out. But yeah, I appreciate what you're doing.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, man. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, right. Peace.
Later. But that's a really cool concept. Just on the kind of like what Satoshi did is like, that's like ace to, answer the question too of like true decentralization is like Satoshi just launched a thing and he's like, hey guys, do with it what you will. And then the community took over and then made it into what it is now. And, the reason that blew up is the only reason that Solana is here in the first place. And so we are basically going to do the same thing. It's like, how do we give this away with as much support and integrity and tools that people need to do to run it for themselves, and then take it, fork it, use it. Some of the stuff that's going to come out of it's probably going to be great. Some of the stuff's not going to be great, but I think we want it to be a great experiment for the community as a whole to experiment with it and see what works and what doesn't. In terms of plans beyond the DAO, we've talked about like particular things like Jane Shmoes, and if you look at our mind map, we've got potentially airdrop coming. We've got some alien abductions that are going on. Cough, deflationary mechanism cough. Don't worry, it won't be jacked out of your wallet. So we've got some things in terms of the actual, utility of it, but the main thing is really the DAO and how it integrates with that. And then once that's picked up, then who knows what's possible. We don't have any plans, but that could literally change after this call. Now that we talked about it, we'll probably get another idea.
Exactly.
Or, tomorrow or whatever. Really, we're kind of focused on that, and then we'll see what happens. And then will you guys as the founders stay involved after the community has taken over certain positions, like a special veto maybe? In the beginning, yeah, because we're going to be passing off our roles to the community. But ultimately, we're not going to have those forever. And that's kind of the whole point, is that we don't want to. We want to make this thing decentralized. And part of that is like we're going to have to test those mechanisms in the crypto space based on the Constitution. And that means being fully outside of the system and seeing what happens. Like we can't half control it and be decentralized. It's going to have to be completely given to the community.
And I think what he's kind of asking is like, will we participate?
Oh,
And
right. Right, that's what I'm saying. Like at some point, like we won't, but we will for a little bit.
And like, I think like the whole point is to like make us as founders eventually over time equal to the community. Right. So like, who knows, maybe like we do choose to come in and participate on like some things that like actually inspire us that like the community has and the DAO has essentially organized around. Maybe we do choose to like vote on things, and
where it is supposed to be as a brand. Oh, go ahead. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. So like I think that's like also part of it is like it's not that like it's not that like there's like a complete handoff and then like everything is like completely done. Like that is what like the whole point is like we hand it off to the community so that we become a part of the community and have our own choice in how we participate on individual levels.
Right, but we won't own it at that point.
Exactly. We won't be the centralized entities that it's focused around, which is the entire goal. The centralized entity that will be focused around is the brand that the DAO has actually created.
Right. And then in terms of a branding perspective, if this answers your question, we don't really have any plans for the brand after this. I don't know. We're open to like cool shit. I mean, we've talked about like cool like Joe clothing and stuff and some Joe art. I know we're definitely going to get some Joe art just for us, you know, some cool like pixelated big posters and stuff. But other than that, like we're definitely open to collaborations and talking about cool ideas. And this is like where we want feedback from the community as well.
And I think that's like the importance that we're trying to keep is like really just like an open stance to it. I think like the most of what happens within a lot of these, especially Solana projects that don't thrive, is they get clamped around a roadmap that they actually can't execute on well. And they don't actually leave room for creativity and fluidity with like the trends and what's actually happening with the ecosystem, with actually like creative new thoughts that can be done. And that's what the good projects do. You know, I see Tayo Robotico's over here with Chuck. Like that's a great example of a community member stepping up and taking over a project and like making it thrive, right? Solana Money Boys, D-Gods, all of these guys are essentially attempting new models even when old ones fail and are being open and transparent with the community. And that's like essentially our goal is to like continue to like leave ourselves enough space to be creative.
Absolutely.
But I can just talk about
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, I think that answers most of the questions for today. We will be doing an AMA on Magic Eden on Thursday. Check our announcement channels for the time. If you are also part of Crypto Nerds, we're going to be doing that as well. But in between then, you know, if you guys have any questions for us, let us know. Just some final details. First of all, everyone who's been on this audience, if you guys aren't on the whitelist, just go to the whitelist access channel, say that you were here at the AMA, and I'll make sure to add you and give you the proper form to fill out and all of that. Really appreciate you guys. And yeah, we're super excited, super glad that you guys are here. And we're just, really excited to see where this takes us. I love Joe. I love Joe. All right, guys. Well, enjoy the day. We'll be chilling in Discord for the rest of the day, and we'll talk to you guys soon.